guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at JustTweets and at SheKnowsArsenal. Welcome to another episode of the Daily Download, going through Arsenal's most recent news and transfer news here on SheKnowsArsenal, all that kind of stuff. Welcome. Make sure you guys smash the like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and get in the chat and let me know how you guys are feeling. Obviously, Arsenal have a game later on today, so I will be doing like a short game like review after that. But before the game, I did want to come on and make sure that we touched on the most recent news. There's quite a bit to talk about in regards to Arsenal. Obviously, Zinchenko is now with his team. I have no clue whether or not he'll be able to play today. I highly doubt it. But I would imagine that we would see him against Chelsea, which would be great. I've told you guys this before. I'm not big on announcements. Once I know that the player is there and the deal is complete, I couldn't really care less whether or not they, announce it now or if they just let us see him running around on the pitch. It is what it is. But for me, it's not a big deal. But we know Zinchenko is done. And so that begs the question, what is the next priority on Arsenal's list? And Fabrizio Romano, as well as Ben Jacobs and Charles Watts, have all kind of hinted at the idea that Arsenal are going to be looking for an attacker, winger next. And so, we're going to talk about that today. Who could potentially be the winger targets? We kind of spoke about this yesterday. Who could it possibly be? Some of the options that we were talking about yesterday, I was just like, ooh, rank, so we'll kind of talk a little bit more about that in depth towards the end of the show. But I did just want to do like a general roundup of the most recent news beyond the winger situation, because there have been some slight updates in regards to like what Arsenal are going to be doing in midfield. I just want to start off first with Barcelona and their interest in William Saliba. If the Koundé deal falls through, this is coming from Gerard Moreno, who obviously is on the pulse of what's going on with Barcelona. And so Jules Koundé has, or at least Sevilla and Chelsea have agreed a fee for Jules Koundé, and Barcelona are also interested in Koundé, but have not put in a bid. And should Koundé end up going to Chelsea, they'll turn their attentions to William Saliba, which is really annoying because in this window, what we've seen from Barcelona is, although they are in a suspect financial situation and have been able to get deals done, regardless of what we think about them, they are still a mega, power in the game of football. And if a player gets, interest from Barcelona, they will wait around until that deal is done. We've seen that with Jules Koundé. We've seen it with Rafinha. We've even seen somebody like Dembele come down on his wages in order to re-sign for Barcelona. So them being interested in Saliba does make me a little bit worried, just because, a lot of football players see Barcelona and Real Madrid as one-time opportunities. There's not a lot of opportunities to go to those clubs. So if Barcelona were to put some pressure on Saliba, would he try to force, a move to Barcelona? I think Arsenal need to rebuff any sort of, interest in Saliba. It just doesn't help us to have to be looking for another center back in this transfer window. There are some kind of rumors out there that we're looking at a left center back, which would make sense because we don't actually have anybody playing there, with Papa Marie looking to maybe be moved on. But right center back is just not a position that I think we need to be looking at this summer. The opportunities to replace William Saliba with anybody just as good as him would cost us exactly what it would take to sell. So I just don't see Barcelona being able to come up with a competitive bid for us to, even consider, selling William Saliba, even getting into a situation where they're going to pay in installments. Where are they going to be able to get the money to pay us? So it just doesn't feel like something that we should be entertaining. But my biggest fear would be that they would bat their eyelids at William Saliba, and then he would start to agitate for the move, because again, it's a one time, like for a lot of players, it feels like a one kind of time opportunity. And so that's kind of the deal with that. But, with Jules Koundé, even though Chelsea and Sevilla have a fee in place, we know that it's all up to the player. If the player decides to hold out for Barcelona to come with a bid, they will. It's the same thing as Rafinha. So, this is all kind of up in the air. But I don't like the idea of Barcelona looking at Saliba, because we know how that kind of stuff can work against you. Saksham says Saliba is worth 70 to 80 mil. Keenan says we can't even entertain selling a CB until we have got a solid young replacement in. We honestly don't have a 4-core center back. We need to play in Europe. Holding Marie aren't it. I agree. Denzel says, I'm happy to know our players are attracting so much interest from mega elite clubs, meaning our players have value. I agree with you, Denzel, that the silver lining of having players that are getting interest from these clubs is the idea that, like, one, I think it confirms their quality. I see a lot of, like, not in regards to Saliba. I do think if Saliba had stayed at Arsenal, he would be getting the same type of treatment. But with Gabriel, I do think he's criminally underrated, and people act like he's just some like average center back. He's not average. He's very, very good, especially at such a young age. And the fact that there are a lot of clubs that are interested in him, Juventus being one of them, I do think kind of confirms his quality, like with Saka as well. There's like this weird thing about Saka being overrated. If Manchester City wants you, you're not overrated. So yeah, I do think that Saliba is no different than the two of them. That of course a lot of clubs would like to bring him in. He's one of the best young center back talents that there's out there. But Arsenal need to stand firm and try to get him on a new deal and not entertain any of this nonsense, because there's nobody out there on the market that you could get for less than what it would take to there's nobody that you could get to replace him at the same quality for less than what it would take for somebody to take him away from us, if that makes sense. Like, if we sold him for 50 million, it would take 50 million at least to replace that quality. And so it's not worth it, even if he would want to go. Tawanda says Gabriel is very good for being left-footed, and being left-footed is a bonus. Don Arsenal says Barcelona definitely got a tree full of money. Big GZ says if Lukaku was worth 90 million, don't let me put a price on Saliba. Ben says Jules is likely going to Barcelona, but Saliba, nah, he'll be staying here. Though I like the fact that Barcelona getting targeted is awesome, and Gabriel, but both ain't going nowhere. Gent next door says Saliba is generational. He is priceless for me. All of us are pretty much on the same wavelength with this. Arsenio says, Jess, I think all these rumors are kind of unsettling considering our history of players bouncing on us when we need them the most. I mean, I think I would be lying to you guys if I said that this didn't worry me. I really would, because it just does, because it just feels like when those two clubs in particular, Barcelona and Real Madrid, come calling, it's very difficult for players to say no, because they don't know if they'll ever get that opportunity again. Saliba would start, I think, for Barcelona. Maybe not, but I mean, they have some older guys back there. They have a Rujo or whatever his name is. He's really good, but like PK, like I do think he would play good minutes there. Obviously, Barcelona is like a legacy club. Like it's a different level, so, and they have Champions League as well. So, it does worry me a little bit that they would turn their attentions to him. Just the way that people have been like dying to go there and waiting in line and waiting for them to scrape together the coins, like, does worry me. Reggie says, where is Barca getting this money? Are they moonlighting as international drug dealers? I mean, they said that they've sold off like a percentage of their marketing rights and TV rights in order to, get the money for to do the transfers. But ultimately, like, I really do think they are kind of like not paying a lot up front. It's very like, structured payments. And I understand that everybody does structured payments, or, breaks the payments up into little bits. But, I would be afraid that I wouldn't be getting my money at some point. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, Done Arsenal says, with a year left after the season, Saliba, I'm actually scared to lose him for cheap. DND H. Lovu, sorry, says Saliba will 100% join Barca if given the option. Jen next door says we can't rely on Rob Bolding. Again, he cost us top 4. OG says Saliba is going nowhere. We should not sell. I mean, he got a great play last season. He wants to play for us. As far as I'm concerned, though, money can change it all. I think that Barcelona would have to come with like 60 million or something, some craziness like that. And I do think that they would offer something stupid like that without the ability to pay it back. And that's kind of what worries me about all of this. It's just like, I wouldn't be doing any business with Barcelona right now with the situation that they're in. I know it's guaranteed funds, but it's just something about the way that they're doing business doesn't feel secure to me. But I'm just looking from the outside looking in. There's been a lot of clubs that have sold to them already this summer. So we just have to wait and see. Aquan says Gabriel is okay, but not top yet. He is improving. His mistakes in the second half of the season proved to be evidenced against LFC, Man City, Spurs, and Palace. Well, against like Man City, like the red card, I do think was a bit of naivety from him. Liverpool, I'm not sure that I really blame him for that. Ramsdale should be covering his front post, and both goals actually came from the right-hand side, where, the right back and Ben White and Ramsdale were, and not near Gabriel. So not quite sure you could blame Liverpool on him. Spurs, we were basically on our last leg, in terms of like the players that we had left and stuff like that. So I understand like maybe he wasn't the best in those games, but Palace is the one that kind of stood out to me. But again, Gabriel is playing next to Tavares, and you could sense the nervousness, with the team in general when Tavares was out there. So that's not to give Gabriel like an out. I do think that he's still improving and has a lot to work on. But when you put a player in an unsettled back line and there's players back there that are flapping, it doesn't make, other players look as good. So I choose to believe that the Gabriel that I know is the Gabriel from the beginning of the season to about January. That's the Gabriel that I think that we have. I think Gabriel tailed off to the end of the season, but equally the team did as well. So yeah, I get that some people still don't rate Gabriel as highly. I personally rate him very highly, and I think he's criminally underrated. Denzel says Gabriel Magalhaes is Brazilian, and Barcelona is a dream club for Brazilians to play. Well, they're not going after Gabriel. They look like they're going after Saliba. So, thank God for that. Like, I don't want to see any of our center backs anywhere but Arsenal right now, except for if you want Rob Holding, you could take him. Andy says that's so sweet. The most beautiful Arsenal fan. Excellent content. Big up. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Arsenio says, why the team's coming for our players when we need them to get back where we need to. They think we are pushovers. We need to stand our ground and tell them to fuck off and find someone else. Shaking my head. Arsenal, I think, need to build up like a reputation for not being pushovers. We're known for selling our best players. That's what we're known for. Like, the Invincibles is one thing, but during the period after that, we've sold like every single one of our best players, and some of it to like some of our best players to rivals as well, which hasn't been a good look. So I do think we need to build up that reputation again of being the type of team that's not going to like just sell off our players just because you come knocking on our door. We need to do it with Saka, Saliba, Gabriel. Is also what we did with the Mill Smith Rowe already. And who knows how many clubs we've done this with. I do think that we have kind of an assumption that we know absolutely everything that's going with the club. I'm pretty sure that like other clubs have come in for our players and we just haven't known about it. So Arsenal need to just build that up, I think. She Knows Football says Gabriel is a solid player with size and ability. BX Gunner says, I bet they're all looking forward to a season without cameras filming everything. I feel that played a part in our falling short of Champions League. I hope not. I hope that's not a reason why. But I do think, I think Arteta is probably really happy that those cameras are away. I don't think he was really into it. Blaze says, why, just why Arsenal fans slander Gabriel? I like Ben White, but he's not world-class player yet. I think it's the amount that we paid for him. He's not, Saliba is like, he's gotten so much prop. Like Saliba, from the moment that like we signed him, like he was named one of the best young center backs, French center backs. And so I think he comes with that brand, that, that status with him. Ben White is English, and he's really good on the ball, he's doing what he does. Gabriel is a little bit different. He does the dirty work. Like he does all the one-on-one defending. He scares the opposition. And I just don't think that, I think the amount that we paid for him and the fact that he's not fancy and he's not French and he's not English, he kind of just falls in between there. But he's been our best defender since he's been there. He's been there longer than Ben White. And I just think he's underrated. Like I really do. I do think that he's had some high profile mistakes, and maybe that's also in people's minds as well. Like, the pass back at Wolves, the red card, at home against Manchester City. But again, last season, he was one of my most improved players. I really do believe in Gabriel and his talent. I do think that he's getting better every season, and Arsenal fans, like, I just don't know why they don't rate him as highly. I also think there's one account out there that a lot of it's like in the Arsenal kind of like Twitter sphere, like he has like a big following. I think it's a he, and he doesn't like Gabriel. All of the lineups that he puts out don't include Gabriel. He's actually written threads saying that Gabriel wasn't that good. And so I do think some of that comes with that. I do think that there's a couple of accounts that people really like, that if they say that they don't like a player, it kind of seeps into the minds of the Arsenal fan base. But I'm here to tell you that Gabriel is really, really good, and I back him. I really do. But I want to just drop that in about Saliba really quick. We'll see what happens with that. And in regards to Paqueta, Arsenal have spoken to Paqueta's agent, but there's no bid yet. Ben Jacobs says it's a complex situation as the player wants to leave. Alas would like to sell, but the new owner would like to keep him. So it's complicated. It's messy. Paqueta wants to leave. Alas wants to sell, but somebody wants to keep him at the club. And so I don't expect to get any sort of like resolution with this anytime soon. I also don't think the midfield situation will be taken care of until the very end of the window. So that's kind of what's going on with that. I know Newcastle are really interested in Paqueta, and so if the fee is really slashed down a lot more, I do think that they'll try to go for him. I hope that our interest is not being used in order to kind of draw Newcastle out. That's one thing that I'm kind of keeping my eye on, because we were meant to be putting in an official bid, and the official bid never came. And it went from Arsenal super, super interested, so now the fee is lower and all this kind of stuff. But I do know Newcastle are waiting in the wings. So I am going to kind of shelf this a little bit, in terms of my expectations. I don't expect us to sign Paqueta. I think we have some sort of interest in him, but everything around this deal has become very questionable, where like a week ago it wasn't questionable. It was, we're going to put in an official bid. This is the price. We're very interested, more than Youri Tielemans. Now this has kind of it's become a very complex situation all of a sudden. So that's what's going on with that. And, Rudy Galletti. Well, let me tell you guys about the Tielemans thing really quick, because that's a pretty quick one, because nothing has really changed. Tielemans remains a target for Arsenal, with Mikel Arteta the main driving force behind the move, but they have still not made a play, which we know. With only little interest at this stage from United, Arsenal are not in a rush. If Arsenal want Tielemans, it'll get done. Talks with Leicester won't take a long time. It's a deal that can still happen towards the end of the window. Arsenal want to pay in the mid 20 million, while Leicester want to slightly more than 30 million. And so, like, Ben Jacobs, Charles Watts, Ornstein are all kind of saying the same thing, that Arsenal need to sell before they buy Youri Tielemans. And I do think that this is something that the club is telling them. I don't necessarily feel like this is 100% the truth. Maybe Arsenal do want to move some players out in terms of like, making sure that they have roster room to bring him in. But ultimately, like, I do think they're trying to whittle the price down as much as possible. If they know that, Tielemans is very set on coming to Arsenal, and they don't feel like there's anybody else really. I mean, they would know from his agent. His agent would let Arsenal know, like, hey, we have serious interest from so and so and so and so and so and so. And so if Tielemans is sold on a move to Arsenal, he's not willing to sign a new deal with Leicester. Then Arsenal maybe do feel like they can wait a little bit longer and just really kind of make sure that the price goes down as much as possible. Leicester are also in a really interesting situation where they actually can't buy anybody until they sell. And so this is one that I'm like 50-50 on. Like, I do feel like there's a lot of interest in Tielemans, and that he is waiting for Arsenal to kind of press the button so that he can get the move that he wants. But ultimately, like, there's not a lot of clarity in terms of like if we actually have to sell, if all that kind of stuff. So this is 50-50 for me. I do think a lot of Arsenal fans want to see this deal get done. Midfield is an important position to upgrade upon. I think Tielemans does that for us. I also like hearing that a player is desperate to kind of come to Arsenal. That makes me feel a lot better about the move. So I would like to see this happen, but ultimately there hasn't been anything super like groundbreaking. There hasn't been like anything groundbreaking or anything like, moving, with this. So we just have to kind of wait and see. Let's see. Amir says, sounds like he was always planning to run his contract down at Leicester, and us coming in now would be a bonus for him. Let's see. Football Matters FC says you should sign Maddison. I don't think we have any interest in Maddison. I think Spurs do. Let's see. Arsenio says, I don't like Maddison for Arsenal. Kingsley Coman wipes the floor with him. We should go for Coman. Kingsley Coman. Jimmy says, Tielemans or Zinchenko for left center mid if you're Arteta. I think Arteta goes for Tielemans. I do think Zinchenko is going to play in midfield quite a bit. I don't think he's going to automatically just displace Tierney like all the time. But I do think Arteta would be interested in having another midfielder. We know that midfield can, with I think Sambi doesn't really feel like a. Here's my thing on Sambi is that I think he has a lot of talent, but I don't really feel like he's a suitable option if something were to go wrong. So if Thomas Partey was to get injured, I don't really feel comfortable with Sambi jumping straight in. I don't even really feel that comfortable with El Neni either. I know El Neni has looked good in preseason and he's improved and all that kind of stuff, but we know when the shit hits the fan and we're playing against the better teams, he kind of reverts back to type, So I think when you look at the options behind Thomas Partey and Granit Xhaka, it starts to look a little bit questionable. If you had to spend 3 months with El Neni and Sambi as your options in midfield, I do think you'd see a significant drop-off. So for Arteta, I could imagine that he's looking at Tielemans as like a good option to play at the base of midfield. I do think he can do a little bit more in the attacking third, but he can also sit in a double pivot next to a more defensive-minded midfielder. So I do think Arteta would want Tielemans. I can see why he does want him. He has a gun-to-one De Jong type feel to him. And so that's a profile that we're kind of missing. But yeah, I really do have this at a 50-50 at this point. Tawanda says Sambi is more of a Xhaka replacement than a Partey replacement. Zwandor says Lakanga is not a very confident player. Abdul says perfectly summed up Sambi. I think a lot for him, maybe a loan for him would have made sense. I wouldn't mind seeing Sambi, on a loan, but equally, if he stayed, it wouldn't stress me out. I just look at him and every time that he's out there on the pitch, I just think I kind of feel that sense of like nervousness that I do with Nuno. And I feel it more with him because he's in midfield. And that's kind of like where the game is like, it's really compressed in there. It's a lot more fast paced. You have to have really good touches. You have to be economical with what you do. And he just doesn't have that awareness yet. I think he has the technical skill within his, like, he does have it, but he doesn't have the quickness, the sharpness, and really like he's not quick enough in his thought process in that midfield position just yet. So beyond Thomas Partey and Xhaka, who's kind of like our number one options right now, and Zinchenko ultimately being more of an 8-10 versus like a 6, you do need to bring somebody else in there, and Tielemans would be perfect for that, I do think. Let's see. Travis says, I feel nervous with Xhaka. Also, I don't know about you. With Xhaka, I don't feel nervous when Xhaka is there, because I do think that partnership of Partey and Xhaka works. There's enough for me data, enough. There's a big enough sample size for me to see that partnership makes a lot of sense for Arsenal. In most ways. Xhaka, he does make me nervous every single time. He looks like he's about to square up to a player or tackle. But in terms of what he does on the ball, how him and Thomas Partey work together, his ability to kind of maneuver in midfield doesn't scare me. Xhaka, for me, is somebody that I do think we need to move on from. But ultimately, people think. For me, it's when the red mist descends upon his brain and he just decides, you know what, I'm just going to take this player out. I'm just going to yank this player down in the box. Those are kind of the moments where I'm like, oof, and we get about 2 or 3 of those a season. So, it's for me, like, I feel way more nervous when I see Sambi out there. Like, I've noticed that, like, I just don't feel confident with him, like, at all. Let's see. Doomy says Xhaka would be a good backup for left center mid position, in my opinion. 5686 Daryl says, Inshallah, if Xhaka starts at Selhurst Park, I will shoot Arteta and Adu. That is so violent. It's a short, says, please stop. Xhaka needs to go. We need better. I do think that, like, we need somebody to start in front of him. Like, I'm very consistent on that. But the idea that Xhaka and Thomas Partey didn't work last season, I think, is a fallacy. I do think that that's agenda speaking. If you say that it didn't work, does it have a limit to it? Yes. Did it work? Yes. For a large part of the season when they played together, it was one of the best center mid pairings that were in the top 6. So let's not, like, we don't have to alter reality to let our agendas agenda. Xhaka does have limitations. That when the red mist descends, he definitely is a liability in that regard. But his positional awareness has gotten a lot better. When you put him next to Thomas Partey, they look like a formidable kind of pairing in there. But if you brought in Tielemans, I do think we would go up a level. So again, we got agendas. I get that, but like, let's not alter reality. Like, that was a dead partnership. It wasn't. It was good. BGZ says, off the ball, Xhaka breaks up play pretty well. Aaron says, just if Partey does get injured, would you be comfortable with the double pivot of Tielemans and Xhaka? Would I be comfortable? I don't like to see anything that doesn't involve Thomas Partey. Instantly, my confidence in a game drops from like 90% win to like 70, because I just think the way that we play just suits him so well. And there's no combination of midfielders that can do that job. But is that better than El Neni and Xhaka? Yeah, it is. It is. It's different because I don't think El Neni necessarily is like this, like, shutdown defender type. Like, he's really not that either. He's an engine. He can run around a lot. And I think Xhaka, with the positioning, like, he could do a decent job. Like, if you look at Thomas Partey's like defensive metrics, they're not great. And that's because he doesn't have to defend a lot. Most games we control possession and there's just not, or we control the game to such a point where there's not a lot of defensive intervention that needs to come from our central defensive midfielder. So I would feel more comfortable with that than El Neni and Xhaka. But again, there's limitations to that partnership because neither of them are particularly fast. And so the distances would have to be perfect because if we got opened up, it's finished. Like I could just see Tielemans running back like this and Xhaka running back like a truck, and it would just be so bad. She knows football. Thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Yeah, so everybody that's like complaining about the time of the game, I'm not hearing you right now. Do you know how many times I had to wake up at 4 a.m., 3 a.m. to watch Arsenal play? And a lot of times, like the 12 o'clock kickoff, because that's the time that it is, we don't win those games. So I'm not trying to hear that y'all have to stay up until midnight. I'm not hearing y'all right now. Not hearing it. Not hearing it. So yeah. And I kind of agree with BG. Our big GZ says better to concentrate on getting rid of fringe players than Xhaka. As much as like Xhaka can annoy me, and I do think we need to move on from him, I'm more concerned about what's going on with Ainsley Maitland-Niles, what's going on with Torreira, what's going on with Pablo Marie. Don't ever want to see him again. What's going on with Bellerin. Those are the players I'm more concerned about. Xhaka as a rotational option or a backup to Tielemans, for me, it's just fine. I don't think he's as big of a liability as he was before Arteta came in. Equally, he can't be our savior. And right now, like with the options that we have, he's kind of like our savior right now. So yeah, that's how I kind of feel. Let's see. Ayanle, you better not be lying to me because about Nuno to Brighton. If I look and I don't see anything, I'm never going to believe you again. Because sometimes you guys say, look, Jess, look, and there's nothing there. Oh, Nuno maybe to replace Cucurella? Let me see. I don't see anything about this. I don't believe you yet. Let me look. If I look and there's nothing here. Oh, you're right. Oh, I believe you. Good job. Good catch. Okay, so this is a Portuguese outlet, Oyogo or Ojogo. Negotiations are underway between Arsenal and Brighton for Nuno Tavares. Brighton want to sign him on a season-long loan. Obviously, he would be stepping in for Marc Cucurella. This is like the perfect situation for Nuno. This is absolutely perfect. Let's just talk about this really quick. Nuno in a back three is going to cook. Like that's the reality. He's the perfect type of profile for a wing back. He doesn't quite have the he's not quite switched on all the time. But I don't really want him to leave England. Like what you want him to do is get comfortable with the league, get settled in a back three/back five, get a lot of visibility, which you will at Brighton. What's his name, y'all? Why am I want to call him Lee Gunner? Because that's who he looks like. What's the coach's name? What's his name? You know what I'm talking about. His name is escaping me right now, but he's a great coach, and I think the way that Brighton plays and the way that Arsenal play, even though they play a different system, is quite similar in the way that they build up. Potter, exactly, Potter. So this is kind of like my favorite thing about the transfer window, beyond like what goes on with agents and like how those things come to play, is the domino effect. I love watching like the kind of like the dominoes fall. And so Zinchenko to Arsenal, Cucurella to Man City, Nuno Tavares to Brighton. I love that, so I think that would be a really, really good option for him. He can stay in England, get used to the league, and he'll cook. I like that for him. Hopefully it goes through, and it's a loan. So if he does well, we can bring him back in. And if he doesn't, or if he does well, but we still don't see a place for him, we probably could sell him for a good amount of money. So I do like that. I see a lot about Trossard. I do like Trossard. I do think that he's Premier League proven. could do well at a top 6 club. A lot of skill, scores goals. So I wouldn't mind Trossard. I'm not sure what the likelihood of a deal getting done, but I do like Trossard. If that's who we ended up with, I wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe it. You know what I mean? Let's see. Yeah, that's kind of all that's there. But that's a nice little breaking news, right? As soon as we're on air, I love that. I love when that happens. So yeah, make sure there's almost 500 of you guys in here. So like the video, subscribe to the channel. Where have you guys been? If you guys are asking if I'm American or not, where have you been? Like, do I sound English to you guys? I'm not even gonna do my English accent. I'm not drunk enough, and Peaky Blinders is not on. So I'm not gonna do that. But you guys, of course, I'm American. Like, what's up? So yeah, love that. Love that. For him. So moving on from kind of the Tielemans thing, we have to talk about this supposed official bid going into Juventus for our tour. This is coming from Rudy Galletti. To me, he's hit or miss in terms of reliability. He's also closer to the Italian side of things than anything. So, take from that what you will. I wouldn't say that all Italian outlets are just absolute BS, but it's for me, if some of these reports are not underpinned by English media outlets as well, I tend to just kind of throw them away sometimes. He is hit or miss, but basically what he said was that, and there's a couple of different outlets saying this, by the way, if Arsenal are set to make an official bid to Juventus for our tour, despite the interest for Tielemans, AFC could try to sign the midfielder who is out of Juventus's plans. I find that interesting that you add that little tidbit about Tielemans. I saw that somebody in the comment section was saying that this is just to kind of hurry Leicester up or put them under pressure. So when reports like that kind of also have the Tielemans part mixed in, it does make me a little bit like, okay, why are you saying that? So our tour, we kind of talked about him yesterday. I think it was kind of like a resounding, I don't want him from you guys, which is totally fine. A lot of you guys did not want him in January either. But this is also coming from Marcelo Chirico. I don't know him, y'all. I don't know him. But, he says he's a journalista professionista, opinionista TV, but he's followed by quite a bit of people, so he must be somebody. But he was the first person that said, this is an hour ago, that Arsenal will shortly present an official offer to Juventus for our tour. The Gunners are a welcome destination for the player. I also saw earlier that the offer could be a loan. I'm gonna keep it real. I'm kind of of course, he's Brazilian. I think he's a good player. I think that there could be a use for him at the base of midfield again, kind of like what we were talking about. If something were to happen to Thomas Partey, what do we do? And he could play as a lone 6. And I like the idea of maybe rehabilitating him a little bit, but only on a loan. I don't want to see us use the coins on him. Don't use any coins on him, none, because we need to use that for something else. But a loan, with an option to buy, I would probably be interested in that. I'm not gonna lie. Again, we just talked about people are saying he's like Ceballos. No, he's not like Ceballos, you guys, but he does need a little bit of tender love and care. He needs some rehabilitating. He doesn't even look like himself. He's definitely nowhere near as fit as he was. And when I say fit, I don't mean the way you guys say fit, because I don't want anybody oh my gosh, he said he's fit. Not that, but fitness wise, he's not as fit as he was at Barcelona. He was kind of at Juventus, he looked heavier. He didn't look like he was as, fast. And he's not a fast player, but he's a quick mover. So you guys know I'm all about what if we just believed every single, like, even with Youri Tielemans, for me, like, he didn't have a great season last season, and I saw a lot of people saying he was crap. Um, and he's not. It's all about environment. Like, sometimes, things like the place that you're at, the manager that you work with. I mean, those things make a difference. And so, like, look at Aubameyang. He leaves Arsenal. He's not getting along with the manager, and then he goes to Barcelona and he's better. So that's kind of like, what I see with, like, Artur. Like, I do believe in the talent. Like, I think he's a good player. Do I think he's the best player in the world? No. But do I think with a couple of months of playing at a place that he actually feels wanted, and not being like, because he never wanted to go Juventus. Like, that was the most criminal thing that I've ever seen two clubs do, is loan two players or swap two players that didn't want to go to either club. That's awful. And so he's just kind of like, sitting around, and that's not where he wants to be. With a couple of months, could he be a better option than Elneny or Sambi? Yeah, like, he could be. So again, it would depend on, like, is it a loan? That's the most important thing to me. Like, how much money would it cost? But a loan with an option for a better player than Elneny and Sambi to play at the base of midfield, just in case something was to happen to Thomas Partey. Yeah, I'd probably take that. I think midfield needs, not surgery per se, but it needs freshening up. Like, there's just the Elneny re-signing, plus having Xhaka around for a long time. We kind of know where those players are at. So we need something different. And when we talked about, like, Artur and what he could add, he's press resistant, a good ball progressor. He's not like a volume passer, but he's more of like a Kovacic type of player that you can't really get the ball off of him. And if you want to pass the ball into him from the center back position, could he get you past the initial press? Yes, he could. He's quite stocky, and he doesn't really get, like, shoved off the ball like people think. But again, it can't cost any coins. Like, it could not cost any coins. Do I envision this coming to fruition? Right now, I would say that, like, I don't really 100% believe it, but, I could be wrong. This could just be pressure on Leicester to say, like, we have other options. Because I do think also Arsenal are feeding the Charles Watts and, like, Ornstein and these guys this whole needing to sell before they buy. Matt says, I take him on a loan, but not as a permanent. Carl says, Elneny should not be here. If he plays more than 10 games, this window is a failure. Olivier says, midfield is better if you can get a Depay for cheap. I don't like Depay. Like, I like Depay, but I don't want him at Arsenal. Like, he's one of those that, like, his highlight reels look really good because he has some, like, skills or whatever. But we already bought Gabriel Jesus, and Gabriel Jesus is a better version of Depay. So I don't know why we bring him in, but I kind of hear what you're saying. Clement says, Real Betis are looking to raise funds to get Hector Bellerin from Arsenal for 25 million euros. They are never going to pay that amount. I don't know where they're going to find those coins, but I don't know. If we got 25 million for Hector Bellerin, I will apologize for everything I've ever said. We're not getting more than 5 million for Hector Bellerin. Let's keep it real. Yusuf says Tielemans all day. iGamer says, we're going to take Artur over Elneny. Absolutely. Like, I know that he hasn't looked good at Juventus, but there is this false narrative around Elneny that he's some, like, rehabilitated, like, or like some rejuvenated, like, really good midfielder. He is so average. And Artur, even though he's not in a good season right now, like, he is, like, a way better footballer than Elneny. I'm sorry, like, I know we like Elneny and he smiles and he's great, but, like, he's average. Like, Wayne says Artur works well under pressure. Greeny Man says, what's your drink? I like old fashions, and if it's not old fashioned, I like wine. Iquan says, I would rather go after Madison, who scored 16 goals, better than Tielemans and Artur. Yeah, I hear that. I do think Madison is, like, a really, really good player. I like the reason why I like the Tielemans deal is that, like, it would still allow us to potentially go out there and get an attacker, and it's a good market opportunity. Whereas, Madison, we were being quoted like 60 million a summer ago. So I'm not sure that Leicester have come down on that price. So, I think Tielemans maybe it's just a little bit, maybe not as good as a Madison, but like the difference between having to pay like 50 million to like 25 million to me makes it a better market opportunity. Yeah. Saksham says, Jess, did you see Youri's transformation? He looks much leaner. He put the chicken nuggets down. I'm telling you, like I'm sure Arteta probably was like, you can't come around here looking like that, buddy. Put the Happy Meals down. Come on now. So yeah, I think Tielemans does look a lot better this season. So we'll see what happens. There's 535 of you guys in here, which is insane. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. El Nenny's a good squad player. I do agree. I just think he's super average. Carl says El Nenny played against Spurs and Newcastle and couldn't catch Joe Linton when it mattered. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. I was so angry at the midfield against Newcastle. I just thought that they totally shit the bed. I'm not going to the match in Orlando. I'm in LA right now. I'll be watching it and I'll do like a short review after the game. I know some of you guys will probably pass out before then. But yeah, I won't be there, but I got something cooking, y'all. I got something cooking. She Knows Football. Thank you so much for your super chat. Says, adversity is a muscle. The more times you work through it, the stronger it gets. We will see Arsenal's muscles this year after the pathetic whimper of a finish. Out of difficulties come miracles, of course, in miracles. I mean, yeah, Arsenal, I do think, had a difficult time at the back end of last season and need to kind of rebound from that. I don't think Arsenal fans are going to be as accepting of another kind of torpedoed finish this season, especially if we're in a good position. So, I do think that Arsenal mentally need to kind of firm up a little bit because I do think we capitulated. But, players like Gabriel, Jesus, Zinchenko, they should help with that. Tielemans, if we were to bring him in, they should help with that. Let's see. George says, see who's captain tonight for Leicester. If it's Tielemans, I don't care. Aubameyang was our captain and dipped. Georgie, I'm not playing this game with you. I'm not playing with this game. None of that stuff matters. Making players captain, all that kind of stuff. He does not want to stay. You know what I mean? Morris says, Jess, you watch MLS. Is Orlando any good? No. Reggie Perry says, Jess, I hear you're moving to London. I will be spending some time in London. I'll actually be in London next week. So, and I hope on this channel, I'll be able to give you guys some more like game day vlogs and things like that, different types of content, because I'll be closer to the game and stuff like that. So look out for that. But yeah, we're not quite done here yet, you guys. There's still 540 of you guys in here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We still need to talk about the winger scenario. Olivier has a question saying, are we better than last year? But do we have enough today for top four? Or we are better than last year, but do we have enough today for top four? We kind of talked about this a couple of days ago, but for me, it all depends on how good the other teams get. We could ultimately get better and they could also get better, and we finish sixth. So is it enough to make it into the top four? I think we'll be fighting for top four with what we got, but without another midfielder and another winger, I do think it's going to be very difficult. I still question our depth in certain positions. I do think bringing in Zinchenko does really help for left back, but I wonder about right back. You can only play a certain amount of games with Cedric back there, and Tomiyasu hasn't been particularly reliable. So with what we have at the moment, I do think we're fighting for top four. I still think we beat the smaller teams probably even better than we did the season prior. But in regards to are we going to be able to get those points from those big teams? I think we'll struggle still because I don't see a front line that has enough goals in it. So yeah, I do think we're fighting for top four, giving it a good go, but without that attacker and without that midfielder, I still think it's very up in the air. And even with those two players, I still think it's going to be difficult. I think every single team is going to look good. Paul says another CF gives us another winger option in Jesus. Yeah, I hear what you're saying with that, but I don't necessarily see that as what we'll go for. But maybe it does. Crispy Rice says depth had a lot to do with us missing out on top four. We at least have better quality depth. Do we? I do think that the team as a whole looks a lot better. Saliba does help. In center back, we have better depth. In left back, we have better depth. Right back, we're in the same position. Midfield, especially in the kind of like Thomas Partey, Xhaka positions, I still think there's a little bit to be desired there. And in the wing positions, I don't necessarily feel we have enough depth on Saka's side. So we still have a ways to go. In some positions, we have gotten more depth, but in others that are really important, we're still a little short. But I hear what you're saying. Let's keep going here. So we've been talking about everything else, but what I really wanted to kind of talk to you guys about was the attack and the winger position. Charles Watts, this was his opinion. Like, he kept reiterating that this is his opinion, but he basically said once Zinchenko is done, he imagines a winger would be the next priority. Fabrizio Romano has kind of echoed those same sentiments. And so I think a lot of Arsenal fans are like, well, who are we getting? We kind of talked about it yesterday, but Sane to Arsenal feels fanciful. It feels make-believe, if you will. And so although I think that he would be the type of attacker that would move the needle for us, like, I think Leroy Sané is an excellent player. He has not hit the heights that I think they had expected him to at Bayern. And I think he was a better player at Manchester City than he has been at Bayern. But nevertheless, like, he's a type of player that steps straight into this team and puts us on another level. And, I think what we lack is threat and the ability to scare the opposition. I do think right now with Saka and Martinelli, and in particular on the left-hand side, there is not that level of threat that we need in order to really scare the opposition. So although I do think Sané would give us that, and I see a lot of people really pushing that because the Arteta link and the Manchester City link and all that kind of stuff, and the fact that he's been offered to Real Madrid, so maybe he's available. I just don't really see it because he didn't really particularly like being in England, I don't think. That's why he wanted to go back home to Germany. He's on 290 grand a week or more, and I don't see us breaking our wage structure to bring him in. And the biggest kind of thing out there is we're a Europa League team, and we're not really in the position to be bringing in a player like that. So I hate to like put that out there, but that's kind of where I stand with Leroy Sané. It would be an excellent signing. If I woke up one day and we had signed Leroy Sané, I think I would just pass out and I'd be super excited about it. But it just feels kind of like we've made up that rumor and we put two and two together, and we may have looked at him or have him on a deep list of options, but I have a hard time believing that he's at the top of the list. So yeah. And like I said on Football Terrors, I think he's out of our league, so that's that. But I did kind of, take some time earlier this morning to try to figure out like who could potentially be that option, who can play on both sides. I do think the player that we're looking for is going to be left-footed because, again, we went after Rafinha. Rafinha's left-footed. He plays on the right-hand side primarily, can also play on the left. And we're looking for somebody to compete with Bukayo Saka, somebody that can compete with Bukayo Saka, but I think can also play on the left. So those types of things, I think make a difference. I think also going after Rafinha and going after somebody in league, like kind of like a lot of our other transfers have been in league. Ramsdale was, English-based player. Ben White, then going after, Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko. I do think there is a kind of plan to go after players that have played in this league before so that they hit the ground running. So I was looking at players in the league, who in the league could be a really good option. Yesterday, we talked about Harvey Barnes. We talked about Jared Bowen. And I think the one that stands out the most to me is Pedro Neto. Left-footed, can play on both sides, and I believe George Mendes is his agent. I think out of all the options in the Premier League, he's probably the one that stands out to me the most behind like Rafinha. Just because we know what he's about. I know that he had a big injury, but coming back from that injury, he looked pretty good. And he doesn't really have the goal output, but Wolves are a terrible team offensively. They literally don't score goals. So with more chances, more opportunities, playing with a better team, what could he be? What could he become? And I did some research on him statistically to see kind of like where he lines up. The number one player that he's similar to is Bukayo Saka. He plays a lot like Bukayo Saka. He does a lot of ball progression. He's a good dribbler. He's not like a twirly kind of like, I'm going to do a bunch of moves and, get stuck in a, that kind of thing. He's very kind of like efficient, like Bukayo. He has a little bit more flair to him, but ultimately what he wants to do is kind of stop you and get a little burst and then put in a nice cross or a cut back or take a shot. And so, he's somebody that I do think that the club may look at. Not 100% sure, but I wanted to kind of see what you guys were thinking in terms of winger options, because when I look at, the options in league, they're not amazing, but I still think Arsenal would go after somebody in the Premier League because we want to get somebody that we know can play at Arsenal. You look at Cody Gakpo, maybe he needs a club in between. Maybe he needs because ultimately what we're looking for is somebody who can compete with Bukayo Saka, but potentially start on the left. Somebody that we want to spend probably Rafinha type money on. So we don't want to bring in somebody who's going to be just like the players that we already have that need some more development. We need to bring in players that are kind of ready to go. So Cody Gakpo really strikes me as somebody that in the future could be amazing. But stepping up from the Dutch league to the Premier League to start for Arsenal feels a little bit far-fetched at the moment. And then, you look at Moussa Diaby, he's kind of already come out and said that he's going to stay at Bayer Leverkusen. Oops. So I don't know if he was just saying that or if he really would want to come to the Premier League, whatever. I think Newcastle were the team that were most interested in him. So in league, it really does look like, you could look at Trossard, you could look at Pedro Neto, Harvey Barnes, or Jared Bowen. And I think the most likely option for Arsenal based on like connections and how he plays and things like that would be Pedro Neto. Would you guys be into it? Not like, what do you guys think? We're just kind of spitballing here. Would you guys be like, this is just like a terrible signing? Like, what do you guys think? Interested to see what you guys think. Olivier says Diaby is better than Gakpo, in my opinion. I agree with you. I do think Diaby is better than Gakpo. I just am not sure. I'm not sure about, is he better than Saka or Martinelli? Saim says Michael Olise for me. Well, Michael Olise is great. Like, I really do like him. But, he's somebody that, he's a little bit different than Saka. Like, I do think maybe, if you want a creative player that plays on the wing, that somebody is a little bit more of like a creator than a goal scorer, then you probably want Michael Olise. But we literally just signed Vieira, and I think Vieira could do a very similar job to Michael Olise, as not really like a 1v1 type of like burst past you, but more of a creative option. So that's where with Michael Olise, I'm not really as bought in with him, for that position, even though I think he's an exceptional player. I was looking for more that like somebody that has that one-on-one ability that, puts defenders in a position of threat, that kind of thing. And Pedro Neto before his injury was definitely that. I do hear he wasn't as good after his injury than before it, but he didn't come back until the end of last season. So he would need more time. Let's see. Does anybody want Adama anymore? Did anybody want Adama to begin with? If we bought Adama Traore, I would just probably throw up. Like, no. Keenan says Neto and Trossard. Sabaslai, he kind of flopped at RB Leipzig a little bit. But I hear you. Aaron says, if Pedro Neto has recovered from his ACL well and maintained his dynamism, unlike someone like Bellerin, then I'd be excited. Yeah, that's all in it as well. Like, is he going to recover properly? Like, is he going to still have his burst? Like, things like that. So I agree. Sakshem says, Jess, what about Guedes from Valencia? He's underrated. He is underrated. I do like him. He has a little bit of like the Martinellis about him, the chaos factor or whatever. I wonder why nobody has really went for him. Like, what's going on with him? Is anybody linked with him or anything? I'm really surprised that he's just like chilling. Is he injured? Yeah, I don't really. Yeah, he's still at Valencia. He's a really good player. I just wonder why nobody's really went for him. I mean, he's Portuguese. We like Portuguese players in the English Premier League, right? How old is he? 25? 25 years old. How many goals? 11 and 6 assists. It's not bad. It's not bad. Let's see. Let's get some more information on Guedes. Sorry, you guys. I'm just trying to pull it up. I just want to see a little bit more about him. But yeah, he is a good player. Like, from the little bit that I have seen of him, he's a chaos factor type. He has enough goals where I do think that, like, I wouldn't be afraid that he'd come over and like not have the ability to score a goal. I just wonder why nobody else has really went for him. But yeah, he would be an interesting option. Sar from Watford. Yeah, Sar like would be a good, I think, depth option. Does he up the level? No. But would he be able to like deputize for Bukayo Saka better than Pepe? Probably. Wayne Elliott says Neto not enough goals. Bowen would be ideal. See, my thing with the goals situation is what kind of team does he play in? Wolves are horrendous attacking wise. So they've never scored a lot of goals. They basically just, they're kind of like us first year under Arteta. Not a lot of goals, but a good defensive record. And so do I believe that Neto in a different team scores more goals? Maybe, but I get your point. Maybe Bowen would be a better option because that he can score a lot of goals, right? Saksham says, Jess, what about Guedes? Yeah, you already read that. JN Edit says Neto is more of a threat than Saka before his injury. I mean, a lot of people really liked him, before his injury. Aaron says if Pedro Neto has recovered from his, okay, so yeah, I need to go down more. Olivier says all of that say Pepe is still here. Pepe is still here, but we know that there's a lot of interest in him. I don't think he will still be here at the end of the window. Magzino says Neto and Saka would be really dangerous. Adrian says, wasn't there noise about Bowen at the end of the season? I see him linking up very well within our team. There was some talk about Bowen. I thought it might be contract talks. It's kind of faded away since then. But what would West Ham want for him? That would be my question, because if West Ham want, like, he's also English, so he's going to cost a lot. Let's see how much for like his general like value would be. Let's see. Oh my gosh. It's like 40 something million. Oh my goodness, for Jared Bowen. Kill me now. Yeah, it would cost like 40 something million to bring him in. Is he worth it? Maybe. he is left-footed, so he fits the profile like perfectly. So yeah, like I also kind of feel like, some players are just not fashionable. Like Jared Bowen is not fashionable. Like he's very like a lot of people are just like he's just, he doesn't have like that foreign kind of quality about him, like where people would be interested in him, like that. But yeah, I think he would be an interesting option. I would prefer Pedro Neto, but Jared Bowen, I wouldn't like throw up. Like, it is what it is. iGamer says 40 million is not bad. It does. I mean, they might go upwards from that, but yeah. Air Ace says, I like how She Knows Football sounds better, but I do value your analytics and you're too good for Terry and the football tears. Good day. Thank you so much for your super chat. I will say that like, even though Terry and I fight, like he's one of the best people that I've ever known, and he's helped me grow my channel so much. So I know that, some people are kind of like, oh, I'm not feeling him, whatever. Anybody who really knows Terry knows how good of a person he is and stuff like that. So I enjoy being on the Football Terrace, and I probably will be on there a lot more soon. So yeah, but I appreciate your super chat. But Terry's a great person. Keenan says Jared Bowen is amazing at 40 million. He bangs goals. He's a savage and hard to contain. Okay, so we're down for Jared Bowen then. That's what I'm seeing. All right. So I'm seeing like Jared Bowen would be good. So okay. Adrian says we can do 40 mil, but I doubt West Ham's attacking gaps. They'll let him leave for that. Do you think Jared Bowen would want? I mean, I'm not trying to be like Arsenal's crap or anything, but like, do you think he'd want to leave West Ham for Arsenal? Like he's like a nailed-on starter there. Do you think he'd want to leave and not be a nailed-on starter like at Arsenal? Because he wouldn't be. What do you guys think about that? Bowen says, Ben says, Bowen, no thanks. CD Dallo says, tax 60 easy. It's Malaya Sar. iGamer says Bowen or Zaha. I'd rather have Bowen than Zaha. I'm telling you that right now. Sakshem says Arsenal and West Ham are on the same level. I don't think so. But I also do think that like if he left West Ham, he wouldn't be a 100% starter, and that would also hinder his ability to make the English national team for the World Cup. So although I do think maybe he would be interested in coming, I have a hard time believing like right now would be a good idea for him to leave. Let's see. Let's see. Cornet, he's like an underrated like type of option. I think that like if all like push came to shove, I think he's been more effective in the Premier League than Pepe, which says a lot because Pepe's been here for a while. But, I still think we can do better than Cornet. Magzino says Bowen is way more 40 million due to West Ham having money and English tax. He's more around 60, 80. Hell nah. 60, 80 is like a no for me. Mr. Smith says people coming in for big money would be starting. Saka is not hitting that bench for Bowen, I don't think. Let's see. Say no to Bull Top Milk. Okay. Says Bowen is a good player, but Arsenal are overloaded in that area of the pitch. Spend the money on a CM player. So this is where I kind of disagree, is that I do see people saying like we're well stocked on the wings. Well, we have a lot of players, but we don't have enough quality. And quality in the wing areas only really matters in goals and assists. And I do think we lack that and we don't have enough threat. So I get that we have Marquinhos and we have Emile Smith-Rowe and Martinelli and Saka and Nketiah. But those players all together just don't have enough threat. They just don't, and that's not me to say like I don't think they can get there, but I really just don't see the goals there. So, I do think we need to spend a little bit more in that attacking area because I think having numbers is fine, but it's all about where the quality is, So, yeah, that's where I kind of disagree. Coach Dave says, do you plan to have more collaborations with DG? We're trying to do them every 2 weeks. So we should have another one coming up. because I'll be like traveling and stuff, we may have to push it a week. But me and Deluded Gunnar are doing shows like every other week or every 2 weeks. Let's see. Matt Whitman says they want 150 million for Rice, so they would want crazy numbers for Bowen. If we get either Bowen or Neto, I'd be buzzed. Yeah, I do think that like I would take like either one of them if that's what it like came down to. But still, like it's kind of like the winger market is just not great right now. You know, it's there's no obvious options right now. Subsystem says Pepe is better than all those players. Okay, Pepe has so much talent, but we just don't see it, you know, at Arsenal. And I get that like people are like, oh, well, he just doesn't get enough playing time. But when he does get playing time, what does he do with it? Pepe, like I do think Neto and Jared Bowen would fit us a lot more than Pepe because Pepe wants to play in a counterattacking system. You know, he's not particularly efficient, you know, unless he's like our wingers, especially on the right-hand side, kind of hold that width on their own. It's just them by themselves having to do a lot of work. And so because we don't have any overlapping fullbacks, I do think Pepe does a lot better with an overlapping fullback because then he can kind of be right in the box and can hook it onto his left foot and curl it into the bottom corner. With the way that Saka plays on that side, it's just not the same. And Arteta likes repeatability. He likes something that he wants predictability, like for that position. And Pepe is probably one of the most unpredictable players in terms of who you're going to get on that day. So for me, as good as Pepe could potentially be and as good as the compilations look, he just has never been that player for Arsenal. So it's time to move on. You know, I really do think like holding on to the Pepe thing is just based on, you know, a couple of good performances here and there and the idea of him and not the reality of the situation that we're in. Sean says, Pepe to me seems like he has no passion. It's like he's given up. I think it's a difficult situation for him. You know, I really, really do. And so, you know, big transfer to a big club and it just hasn't worked out for him. And I don't think there's a lot of suitors, you know, so I can understand why he gets out there and he kind of knows his future is elsewhere, but he kind of needs to play well enough so people would want to get him. So he's kind of in limbo. It's bad, you know, so I feel bad for him in that respect. Don Arsenal says, Jess, you should try collab with Curtis. I have tried to collab with Curtis, but he's never responded to a single one of my messages. Like he definitely has aired me so many times. So if you guys want to go to him and say like, hey, Jess is trying to collab with you, but you keep airing her, fair enough, do that. But I'm just letting you guys know I've tried for you guys so many times, but he does not respond to me. So I don't know if he just doesn't want to do a show with me or what, but like that's just kind of where we are with that. But I've tried. I swear I've tried. Let's see. Olivier says, but Pepe is always open and no ball is coming to him to judge. We need to see more minutes, in my opinion. I feel like I've seen enough. You know, Mr. Smith says that whole squad have to step it up this year, but we need like 4 more signings after Zinchenko. I think 2, and we're in a good position, to be honest. A good attacker and another center midfielder. I think we're in a decent position. I don't think we're going to get the right back that we definitely need. I don't think we're going to get, you know, the big tall striker that a lot of people want, you know. So it's we're not going to get everything, but I do think we're going in the right direction. There's 545 of you guys in here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. So basically the summary of this is that, yeah, like you guys are down for Jared Bowen. I didn't think that was going to be like a thing. So Jared Bowen, you guys are okay with. You're not as sold on Neto as I thought you guys would be. Everybody is dreaming of Sane, but I think we all kind of know that it's a little bit far-fetched. So we'll have to kind of see what happens with that. But I do think within the next week or two, we will start hearing about the attacking signing, whoever it may be. I'm going to say that my guess is that it's Pedro Neto. That's my guess. I do like Oyarzabal. Great player. Not quite what I think we're going to be looking for, but great player. Like watching him play. So yeah, but make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, share this with a friend. Today's Wednesday. So later on today, if you guys are up, I will do like a quick review on the game. We'll kind of do some like player ratings or whatever, so look forward to that. And so, yeah, I will see you guys on the next one. Bye, y'all.